Ladies and gentlemen, a single day has the power to shape your destiny, and this truth is something many people underestimate. Often, we live as though days are disposable, as if we can waste today because tomorrow will come with new chances. But when we look closely, we realize that every achievement, every turning point, every great story of transformation began with one day where someone made a different choice. A day is not just 24 hours on a clock, it is a canvas that life gives us, and what we paint on it can influence the rest of our journey. When we understand the weight of a single day, we start to treat it not as ordinary, but as extraordinary. Think of history and the lives of great people. The breakthroughs of inventors, the victories of leaders, the discoveries of scientists, or even the first steps of someone deciding to change their lifestyle, all began with one decisive day. A student chooses to open a book and start studying seriously for the first time, and that day plants the seed for success. A professional chooses to speak up in a meeting with courage, and that day begins their rise. A person battling with personal struggles decides one day to say, "No more, I will change," and from that day a new path opens. Destiny is not written in weeks, months, or years. It is written in days, in single sparks of courage and commitment. The most beautiful part of this truth is that every day is equal in its potential. Yesterday might have been wasted. Yesterday might have been filled with mistakes. But when the sun rises again, life gives you a brand new page. That means destiny is not controlled by your past, but by your present. This very day could be the beginning of your breakthrough if you decide to honor it. When you wake up and say to yourself, "Today matters," you infuse purpose into your actions. It is the little choices, choosing to start instead of procrastinate, choosing to smile instead of complain, choosing to forgive instead of staying bitter, that build into massive results over time. And it all starts with how you treat one day. Sometimes we underestimate a single day because we are looking too far ahead. We think about 5-year plans, big dreams, or long-term achievements. And we forget that those long-term results are nothing more than a collection of days lived with intention. One disciplined day repeated again and again is what leads to greatness. But if you don't value the power of one, you will never value the power of many. Each day is like a drop of water. Alone it looks small, but many drops together carve rivers and even shape landscapes. That is exactly how your destiny is written. There is also a danger when we let one bad day make us believe that our future is doomed. Everyone faces disappointments, losses, rejections, or failures. But those events are simply part of a day, not the definition of life. The mistake many make is allowing that single day of pain to break their spirit. But the truth is, a bad day is also powerful if you use it right. It can become the day you learn, the day you go stronger, the day you decide never to give up. Even in hardship, a day can shape your destiny because it can shape your mindset. And your mindset decides your direction. When you realize the sacredness of one day, you begin to guard it carefully. You wake up with gratitude instead of indifference. You make choices with awareness instead of letting life drift. You see every encounter, every opportunity, every challenge as a gift to be used. And by doing so, you are no longer wasting days, you are investing them. That investment compounds, and over time, it builds a destiny far greater than you imagined. Don't let one negative moment ruin the whole day. Is a principle that can completely transform the way we experience life. Every single day is made up of countless moments, some pleasant, some neutral, and some painful. But human nature often makes us cling to the painful ones more than the joyful ones. One criticism can overshadow a dozen compliments. One failure can make us forget about the progress we have made. One argument can drown out hours of peace. When we allow a single negative moment to dominate, it is like handing over the steering wheel of our entire day to something that should have been just a passing event. Life is too precious to let a few seconds of unpleasantness dictate the quality of our 24 hours. Imagine waking up in the morning with energy and optimism, but then while driving to work, someone cuts you off rudely. The irritation sparks, your mind begins to replay the scene, and suddenly you find yourself frowning through meetings, snapping at colleagues, or carrying frustration back home to your family. That 2-second incident steals away the beauty of your entire day because you allowed it to. The truth is, the event was small, but your attachment to it was large. The human mind has a way of magnifying what hurts, and unless we consciously resist, we can let a negative moment take control. But the reality is, the same power we give to negativity can be given to positivity. If we can choose to hold on, we can also choose to let go. When you think deeply, a day is like a storybook. Each chapter, or each hour, is part of the whole narrative. If one page has a dark paragraph, does that mean the entire book loses value? Of course not. Yet in daily living, people often treat one bad conversation, one mistake, or one rejection as though it defines the entire day. This is unfair to all the other good things that may be happening around you. The smile of a friend, the beauty of the sky, the laughter of a child, the satisfaction of completing a task. These things are also present, but they get hidden under the shadow of one negative experience. When we learn to shift our focus, we realize that negativity doesn't have to dominate. Another reason not to let one negative moment ruin the day is because of the power of perspective. What feels like a disaster in one moment may, in time, turn out to be a blessing. That rejection letter may lead you toward a better opportunity. That failed attempt may prepare you with the resilience you need for greater success. If the negative moment is temporary, but you treat it as permanent, you imprison yourself unnecessarily. But if you remind yourself that no moment lasts forever, you free yourself from the grip of discouragement. The ability to move on quickly is not about ignoring problems. It is about not giving them more power than they deserve. It is also important to remember that your energy affects not only you, but also the people around you. Carrying the bitterness of one negative moment often spills over into interactions with others. A bad meeting at work may cause you to snap at your family at home. A disagreement with a friend may cause you to withdraw from people who had nothing to do with it. But if you consciously decide to isolate the negativity, to keep it from spreading into the rest of your hours. You protect not only your own peace, but also the peace of others. A moment of wisdom here can save a day of regret later. Every single day is a gift, and within it are many treasures. To let one unpleasant moment rob you of all the joy is like finding a single scratch on a beautiful painting and declaring the whole artwork worthless. If you guard your day carefully, if you refuse to give unnecessary weight to one bad event, you discover that most days are not ruined at all. They are simply interrupted. The interruption can be acknowledged, but the flow of joy can continue if you choose to keep moving forward. Your response matters more than the event itself is a principle that has been echoed through wisdom, psychology, and experience across generations. Life, by its very nature, will throw countless events our way. Some of them will be pleasant and uplifting, while others may be painful, unfair, or completely unexpected. But what truly defines the outcome is not the event itself, but the way we choose to respond to it. Two people can go through the same challenge, yet one emerges broken, while the other emerges stronger. The difference lies in the response. We may not always have control over what happens, but we always have control over how we react. And that choice has the power to reshape everything. Imagine a storm. One tree may break under its force, while another bends and survives. The storm was the same, but the response of the trees was different. In the same way, when life brings storms, failure, betrayal, rejection, or loss, the event cannot decide the final outcome. What decides it is whether we choose resilience or despair, hope or hopelessness, wisdom or impulsiveness. This is why many people say attitude is everything. The event is external, but the response is internal, and it is within the internal realm that destiny is shaped. Often, when people face hardships, their first instinct is to blame the event. They say life was unfair, circumstances were harsh, or others caused their downfall. While these things may hold some truth, focusing solely on the event keeps us powerless. On the other hand, shifting focus to our response restores power. For instance, if someone insults you, the insult itself cannot harm you unless you choose to hold on to it, replay it, and allow it to damage your self-esteem. If instead you choose to ignore it or use it as motivation to grow, the same event that could have destroyed your peace instead fuels your progress. The insult didn't decide your destiny. Your response did. Consider how this principle applies to failure. Every successful person has encountered failure, often multiple times. The event of failure is universal. Yet, while some people quit and declare themselves incapable, others analyze, learn, and try again with renewed effort. Their response turns failure into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. This simple shift changes the trajectory of their life. The same event that closed one door becomes the reason another, better door eventually opened. The event didn't carry the power to decide the outcome, the response did. Even in small, everyday matters, this principle holds true. You may spill your coffee in the morning, get stuck in traffic, or miss a deadline. These events have the potential to ruin your mood and waste your day. But if you pause and remind yourself that frustration only adds more suffering to the situation, you can choose calmness instead of anger. That calm response keeps your mind clear, your relationship steady, and your energy preserved. In this way, you reclaim control over your life by refusing to hand it over to events you cannot change. This truth also extends to relationships. Conflicts and misunderstandings are inevitable, but whether they end in broken ties or deeper bonds depends largely on response. A defensive and a harsh reaction may escalate the problem, while a patient and understanding one may heal it. The event of conflict alone does not dictate the outcome. It is the chosen response that does. By responding with maturity, empathy, or forgiveness, you transform potential destruction into growth. Ultimately, the event is like raw material, and your response is the sculptor. Left untouched, the raw material means little. But in the hands of a skilled sculptor, it becomes art. Likewise, the events of life, whether good or bad, gain meaning only through the way we respond. This is why your response matters more than the event itself. Because it is the response that shapes your character, directs your future, and determines whether you rise above circumstances or are crushed beneath them. Failures, criticism, and delays are hidden opportunities, because beneath their surface, appearance of pain and disappointment lies the seed of growth, strength, and eventual success. Life rarely gives us victories wrapped in ease. More often, it hands us struggles, setbacks, and obstacles that initially feel like closed doors. Yet when viewed through the right perspective, these very challenges become stepping stones. Failure forces us to re-examine our methods. Criticism highlights blind spots we may not have seen ourselves, and delays cultivate patience and resilience. Together, they shape us into individuals capable of handling greater achievements than we might have imagined. Failure is often misunderstood as the opposite of success, when in reality it is part of the pathway to success. Every failed attempt teaches us something valuable about what does not work, narrowing the gap between where we are and where we want to be. Think of inventors, entrepreneurs, or athletes whose accomplishments we admire. Behind their victories are countless failures that tested their willpower and refined their strategies. Failure can be painful, but it is also a teacher more honest than success. Success might make us complacent, but failure demands that we think deeper, work harder, and grow stronger. When we embrace failure as a disguised opportunity rather than a final verdict, we unlock its hidden value. Criticism, too, often feels uncomfortable, even harsh. Human nature resists hearing what is wrong, but constructive criticism is like a mirror. It reflects aspects of ourselves that we cannot see alone. When others point out flaws in our work, our habits, or our approach, they give us insight into areas we can improve. Even when criticism is delivered unkindly, if we sift through the negativity, there is usually a kernel of truth that can help us grow. Leaders, artists, and professionals who rise to greatness are often those who learn not to be defensive in the face of criticism, but to treat it as feedback. By doing so, they turn criticism into fuel. It sharpens their skills, broadens their perspective, and prevents stagnation. In this way, Criticism, though painful in the moment, is a hidden opportunity to become better than before. Delays are perhaps the most frustrating of all because they test our patience. In a world that values speed and instant results, waiting can feel like wasted time. But many times, delays are life's way of preparing us for something greater. A delayed dream allows us to mature so that when the opportunity finally arrives, we are ready to handle it. A delayed success teaches us endurance and resilience, which are qualities more valuable than quick wins. Sometimes what we think is a delay is actually protection, keeping us from rushing into something we are not yet equipped to handle. Viewed in this light, delays are not denials but redirections, guiding us to the right timing and the right opportunities. The hidden beauty in failures, criticism, and delays is that they prevent us from settling for less than our best. Without failure, we would never grow beyond our comfort zones. Without criticism, we would never confront our weaknesses. Without delays, we would never develop patience or trust the process of life. They challenge our pride, test our perseverance, and stretch our capacity, but in the end, they leave us stronger, wiser, and more resilient. What seems like an obstacle today may later be remembered as the turning point that made everything possible. It is only when we shift our perspective that we realize failures, criticism, and delays were never enemies at all. They were hidden opportunities shaping us for something far greater. Resilience is the key because it is the quality that allows us to withstand adversity, recover from setbacks, and continue moving forward even when the odds are stacked against us. Life is not a smooth road. It is full of twists, turns, and obstacles that can easily discourage even the strongest among us. But those who achieve greatness, inner peace, or lasting fulfillment are not necessarily the most talented, wealthy, or fortunate. They are often the ones who simply refused to give up, who bent but did not break, who kept rising every time they fell. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulties, but about confronting them with strength and bouncing back with determination. Resilience begins with the acceptance that challenges are a part of life. Many people waste their energy wishing for a life free of struggle, but the truth is, no such life exists. Everyone faces pain, loss, rejection, and failure at some point. The difference lies in how we respond. A resilient person understands that pain is temporary and that setbacks are not permanent definitions of who they are. Instead of allowing hardships to crush them, they use them as fuel to build inner strength. In this way, resilience transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. What makes resilience so powerful is that it protects us from the trap of despair. When faced with repeated difficulties, it is easy to believe that nothing will ever improve. But resilience whispers, "This too shall pass." It reminds us that storms, no matter how fierce, eventually end, and the sun eventually rises again. This mindset prevents us from surrendering to hopelessness. It gives us the courage to take one more step, and often, that one extra step is the one that leads us to breakthrough. Resilience is also about adaptability. Life does not always unfold according to our plans, and rigid people often shatter when reality does not match their expectations. Resilient people, however, learn to bend. They adjust their strategies, shift their perspectives, and find new paths forward. If one door closes, they look for another. If failure strikes, they ask, what can I learn? This flexibility is what allows them not only to survive change, but to thrive in it. Resilience teaches us that being strong is not about never falling. It is about knowing how to rise differently each time. The beauty of resilience is that it is not just about enduring hardships, it is about being transformed by them. A person who has faced adversity and come out stronger carries a depth of wisdom, empathy, and courage that can never be gained through ease. Resilience turns wounds into wisdom and scars into stories of victory. It deepens our character and expands our capacity to handle whatever life throws at us. Over time, resilience becomes not just a reaction to challenges, but a way of living, a steady confidence that no matter what happens, we will find a way forward. Resilience also inspires others. When people see someone rise again and again despite struggles, they are reminded of their own inner strength. A resilient person becomes a light of hope, proving that setbacks do not define destiny. In this way, resilience not only changes individual lives, but also ripples outward, encouraging communities and even future generations to persevere. At its core, resilience is the key because it is the invisible force that turns trials into triumphs, failures into foundations, and pain into power. Without resilience, challenges break us. With resilience, challenges make us. Your strength can define the day, not the other way around. Because the true power of life lies not in circumstances, but in the choices and attitudes you bring into them. Too often, people surrender the quality of their entire day to external factors. A rude comment, unexpected traffic, a delayed plan, or even their own fleeting emotions. They believe that the day has the authority to dictate their mood, productivity, and peace. But the truth is, the day itself is neutral. It carries sunrise and sunset, hours and minutes, events and surprises. But none of these determine how meaningful or fulfilling those 24 hours will be. It is the strength within you, your discipline, your perspective, your resilience, and your will that defines whether the day becomes a victory or a defeat. When you wake up in the morning, you are given a blank page. The weather may be stormy, people may behave unfairly, and obstacles may arise. But those factors alone cannot write your story. What writes it is your inner strength. If you begin with gratitude, optimism, and determination, you establish a foundation that no setback can easily shake. On the other hand, if you allow small inconveniences or negative emotions to take control, you give the day more power than it deserves. Your strength is like the captain of a ship. No matter how rough the sea becomes, it is the captain's decisions that steer the vessel safely. Likewise, no matter how chaotic the hours ahead may be, your strength decides the direction. This principle becomes clear when we observe people who thrive despite hardship. Some of the most inspiring individuals in history lived through days far harsher than most of us will ever face. Yet they did not allow those days to define them. Instead, they defined the day through courage, creativity, and inner resolve. Their strength became greater than their circumstances, proving that external conditions cannot control a person who has mastered internal power. Even in ordinary life, you can see this truth. Two people may go through the exact same difficult day, yet one collapses under its weight, while the other rises above it with hope and action. The difference is not the day. The difference is strength. Strength is not about pretending the day is perfect. It is not about ignoring problems or forcing fake positivity. Real strength acknowledges challenges, honestly, but refuses to surrender to them. It means saying, "This problem is real, but it will not control me. I will decide how I respond." When you take this stance, you reclaim authority over the day. You may not be able to erase the problem, but you can decide whether it steals your peace, your joy, or your productivity. Strength empowers you to separate external chaos from internal calm. Each day is like clay in your hands. Left untouched, it may harden into whatever shape circumstances force upon it. But with strength, you mold it into something purposeful. If criticism comes your way, your strength can turn it into motivation. If failure visits you, your strength can transform it into a lesson. If delays frustrate you, your strength can reshape them into opportunities for patience and growth. In every case, your strength determines whether the day becomes wasted or worthwhile. Ultimately, when you recognize that your strength defines the day, you stop being a victim of time and events. You become an active creator of meaning and progress. This understanding shifts your mindset from passivity to empowerment. Instead of saying, "I had a bad day," you begin to say, "The day was tough, but I was stronger." That shift in language reflects a deeper shift in power. The day does not decide your destiny, your strength does.